Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host, Matthew Head. And in this episode, I'm talking to Matt Bird. He's the founder and CEO of Publish You, a company that coaches over 100 people per year to write and publish their own books. He's also the author of over 20 books and has previously won the Book of the Year. He's a writer for newspaper columns, which have been featured in papers such as The Times. And somehow he manages to find extra time around this to run numerous other projects. As always, I'll put links to Matt's companies as well as other things we talk about in the show notes, which will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, great to be with you, Matthew. And may I first compliment you on the name?
Yes. It's, when we were sorting this out, there ended up being 3 Matts on an email chain, and that just got confusing after a while.
Yeah. I get called Matt nowadays. My mum still calls me Matthew, and I'm naughty, but
yeah. My mum calls me Math, and then Matthew if I've done something really, really wrong. But I don't hear that much anymore.
That's good.
I think I've grown out of that one. But where I wanted to start our conversation off today is that you spend time between London and Italy, and I wonder how you found not only sort of the language change, but sort of dyslexia's opinion between the two countries.
Yeah, well, I haven't learned to say dyslexia yet in Italian, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I love the sunshine, and wouldn't it be lovely to have a little place in somewhere sunnier than London, which isn't that difficult most of the year. So I headed south all the way down to a city called Noto on the Italian island of Sicily. And it's a beautiful place to be because I'm really committed to the community and the people. I'm trying to learn Italian.
Yeah.
But as a dyslexic, I do not find that easy.
No. It's language learning can be tricky with dyslexia. Are you employing any sort of novel strategies to try and get language learning down?
No, I was rather hoping if I mentioned it on here, somebody might message us and tell us what the tricks are because, I've had a tutor. I try and talk Italian to locals, although they prefer to speak English. I don't because my Italian. I use the Duolingo app, which is good, but sometimes I think it goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm trying to listen to the radio when I'm in Italy, just to get the language. Most of it, I have no idea what they're saying, but I just want to hear the language. And people have recommended watching films with subtitles, but I really don't. Even though I've been learning for a year and a half, I don't think I'm at that level yet. But if anybody's got any tricks for learning a language as a dyslexic, I would love to hear them.
Yes, yeah. Drop a message on the website or post a comment on social media, and hopefully you get it back through because I've heard some various tricks like reading comic books and stuff like that to try and learn language, but nothing hugely specific for dyslexic thinking. Because, we had a bad enough time learning the English language at points, let alone...
Oh, my goodness. I remember at school trying to learn French and they used to kind of verb forms or whatever. And I didn't know what they were in English, let alone French. I mean, goodness me.
Yeah. I had the same problem with French and modern languages at school, that they were referring back to the English, the very much the English literature, how it's all built and, your pronouns and your verbs and whatever, prepositions and stuff. But I hadn't got that down. So I don't know how that was going to help me learn the other language. Like, I don't know these words in English. So come on, can we do it another way, please?
Yeah, totally.
So that brings me to your school days. Did you know that you were dyslexic as a kid?
No, I didn't. I struggled at school. They put me in remedial English classes, remedial maths classes, told me I couldn't do computer studies because my grasp of the English language wasn't good enough. I left school believing I was stupid because that's what most of my teachers, well, there's one that didn't, but most of my teachers told me. So, it wasn't the best, start, my education. Wasn't my best platform for launching into life, but there we go.
Yeah. So how did you find out? What actually triggered you to be like, hang on, I'm not just whatever story you've been telling yourself at that point in time?
Yeah, it was my early 20s. I think as my mum said to me, I think you're dyslexic. And my immediate question was, what's dyslexia? I had no idea what it was. So, that's when I first heard it. And, didn't know really what it was all about. And when she explained it, I thought, maybe I am.
Mm.
And so that was when it started. And like many people with dyslexia, I really struggled with self-worth, self-esteem, self-belief. I'd always felt a little bit like on the fringe and not in the in crowd. And so it helped me understand one of the reasons why I might have struggled at school.
One of the reasons. Okay, more to it than that was there.
Yeah, quite likely. Just attitude.
Yeah. The problem is sometimes you don't know the causality, do you? You don't know if the attitude's fed by the fact you're struggling or the attitude comes from somewhere else.
Yeah, totally. So, but yeah, I moved beyond that, thankfully, and I think holding my head high, looking people in the eye, being growing in self-confidence over the years, that was a really significant milestone, but it didn't happen quickly.
No, I can imagine not. So you obviously in your 20s found out you're dyslexic. Did you go for formal diagnosis? So what did you put in place after that? What was the sort of, I need to start doing this kind of thing?
Well, there was no aha. It was just, okay, I'm dyslexic. And at the time I thought, well, that's a bit disadvantageous, isn't it? And that helps explain why school was difficult, why I struggled to write, read, spell, concentrate. Yeah, I hated this. The lesson I hated most, more than French actually, was dictation exercises. I got lost after the first sentence. I just felt it was torturous. Do you remember those?
Yes, where the teacher would read the book out loud and you had to write it down. Is that what you're on about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had to copy my friends off the page next to me because I was lagging well behind by that point. And couldn't read what I'd written down either.
Yeah, so I think I think for me, getting over the belief that I was stupid was significant. Because when something went, and I'd say I'm stupid, and people would tell me off and say, "No, you're not." But in the back of my mind, when something went wrong or I failed at something or something didn't work out as I wanted, I just say in my mind, "Oh, it's because you're stupid." And it took me years and years and years to stop saying that about myself. And then the kind of self-acceptance, self-belief, self-esteem, self-worth, that was significant. But I think it's taken me even longer. Really, it wasn't until my 40s that I began to realise that my dyslexia was actually my advantage, not my disadvantage.
Yes. Yeah. And did you do any sort of thing to help you get past your sort of belief thing? Or was it just a bit of a kind of like, stop talking to yourself in this way, stop it?
It was just a little bit of, stop it. No, stop it. Being loved and being liked, transformed, how I felt about myself.
Yeah.
And that for me, it was my belief system. I started believing in God and knowing that He loved me and liked me.
Right.
And it was like lifted my self-worth and my self-esteem. So, but it's no good just hearing those words. They have to become real inside you, don't they?
They do, yeah. Yes.
So, no matter how often somebody told me I wasn't stupid, that didn't change anything. It was just a challenge to my own thinking. But, I had to change my own internal narrative, at the end of the day. And that took a long time. But, then later recognizing that actually my dyslexia was not my disadvantage, but it was my advantage. It wasn't a, well, I hate it. It's commonly described as a learning disability. Let me put it this way. I object to dyslexia being called a learning disability because I'm a very able person and people who are dyslexic are very able. So I object to that. I also object to it being called a learning difficulty because we don't struggle to learn. Dyslexics can learn very fast. We just learn differently.
Yes.
So, I've been on a big campaign in recent times to stop describing dyslexia as a learning disability, disorder, or difficulty, and simply call it a learning difference.
Yes.
People with dyslexia are not less intelligent. We just process information differently. And actually, we process it a lot faster than some other people.
Well, yeah. And what was the one I saw today? Condition. Tell me about your neurodiverse condition. I don't have a condition.
Yeah. Or you suffer with dyslexia. No, I don't suffer with dyslexia. Society suffers because it doesn't understand.
Yeah, I don't anymore. Yes.
I don't anymore. So, the research out there, the company behind Post-it notes, for example, said thinking in pictures is 60,000 times faster than thinking in words.
Yes.
Now, it's one of the differences between people with dyslexia and without dyslexia is people with dyslexia think in pictures.
Mm.
Now, if that's the case, that means we think a lot faster than other people when we think in our way, not their way, when we can think in pictures.
See, you alluded to having a bit of a rough time at school and stuff, and dictation exercise weren't fun. So your first introduction to books probably wasn't a fun introduction, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, I remember enjoying reading the famous five, but it never got more complicated than that. And I'd read a book and then have no idea what it said.
Yes. Do you ever do that thing where you feigned reading a book in class so you didn't get told off for not reading?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, one day somebody turned around to me and said, "Matt, you've got a book in you." I was like, "What?
Hey?
What book?" And I was like, "No, you don't understand. I was in remedial English at school."
Yeah.
I struggled. I found it impossible to write an essay, or it's just I hated it. So when this person said you got a book in you, I was a little bit taken aback, and they actually picked up the phone, dialed their publisher, and said, "I've got a young guy here. He's got a book in him. Will you publish it?" And I was sat there beside him, and then he passed me the phone. I nearly wet myself.
Yeah, I can imagine. So to set the scene, what were you doing at that particular time? What sort of age were you? Where were you working?
Oh my goodness! I was about 30 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, about 30 years old. Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? About 30 years old. I had a job when I left school for 5 years, and it was okay. But since then, I always say I'm unemployable. You look at my CV; it's all over the place. I've always started things. I'm the classic. They say there's a disproportionate number of entrepreneurs who are dyslexic or are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And that's me. I hate a 9 to 5. I hate going to an office. I've got a very high work ethic, but I hate being told what to do, and I hate writing reports, and I hate writing proposals. And so I've always built businesses and ventures. Businesses might be a bit glamorous. I've always built ventures. Most of them have failed. but they've always succeeded enough for me to earn a living, which is I'm really grateful for. But books always seemed way out there.
Yeah.
So I wrote my first book, and I've actually authored 20 books now, and I've developed approaches to writing books that help me. I make it very ABC. Do you know what I mean? I have a process. I see the process from beginning to end, and I use that same process every time I write a book. It's like a little formula that I apply.
What do you think the person that said there's a book in you, what do you think they saw in you? Were you doing lots of verbal storytelling?
Yes. Yeah, I was doing lots of speaking. But it's a very different art form to write rather than be a narrator. I've always found I haven't always, since I started speaking, I found my feet, and I'm a very comfortable orator, confident orator. I can stand up without notes for 45 minutes, and speak. That is something I've learned to do, and now I love doing it. Whereas writing a book is quite different. It's a different art form. It's not just a matter of taking a speech and popping it into a book as a chapter. It's a different medium of communication, and
So let's go to book one. Really, let's start off with your friend has said to you, there's a book in you, you've got a publisher on your phone, in your ear, and they've convinced you to do it. So now you're in the cold light of day and you're like, where do I start? So what did you do to get that first book out of your head?
Yeah, well, what I did, I actually dictated. I wrote bullet points. I wrote an outline for the book, whatever it was, 10 chapters. And then I bullet pointed each chapter, worked out how I was going to introduce the chapter, worked out how I was going to conclude the chapter. And then I just got a dictaphone, as they were in those days. And I just went for a walk and I dictated the chapter and then had somebody transcribe it and polish it up. So that's how I did my first book.
Yeah.
But then as I've done more, I've grown more confident in my own ability to write. And I still have somebody do a heavy edit and a copy, and a proofread, of course. But I've just grown in confidence that I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done 20 of them, so there's a fair bit of iteration across the process. And what sort of things did you discover in the way? What were you kind of, after that first bit of dictation, you must have been sat there thinking, this is okay, but I want something a bit more fluid, because, I've tried dictating articles and stuff, and it kind of works, but it never quite feels natural.
No, when you dictate, you use a lot more words because you witter on. When you're coming down, you're a lot more, well, I'm a lot more succinct. I get to the point far more quickly.
Yeah.
And I experience this because I actually coach other people to write their books now. Mm. And I say to people, if you can't write, dictate. But actually, you dictate so many more words than you would write. And so the editorial stage of a transcript is much heavier and it takes much more time because you've got so many more words to edit down to get to the true core of what you want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So you dictate your first run. You said about using professional editors or other people. Do you first do your own edit yourself, whether it's you or somebody you're coaching, to get that thinned out, or do you farm it out pretty quickly?
No, I encourage 3 edits with the people I work with.
Okay.
A personal edit, a private edit, and a professional edit. So right. The personal edit is your own run through, you run through, and primarily your sense making.
Yeah.
You're just ensuring that what you've written makes sense. I call it sense making.
Kind of useful, I would have said, yeah.
Yeah. And perhaps I've got a name for it because actually a lot of what I write doesn't make sense. And so I need to go through and make sure it makes sense. But it's sense making, and you do a little bit. I've still got no idea about grammar. I put the odd full stop in and comma in. It's about as sophisticated as mine gets. And I might pick up a spelling mistake, but it's more likely the software that does. And that's my first edit level, and that's what I encourage all my students to do. Once they've written the book, to sit down and edit it from beginning to end, read it through and sense make. Make sure you've not duplicated stories, and work on the grammar, work on the spelling, all that stuff. Because actually, I say to my students, when you write your book, you mustn't edit it as you go. So you have to write it as a stream of consciousness. Just get it out.
Okay.
Do not reread what you've written till you've finished it. And then you reread it and you do the editorial. So, and then the second editorial is what I call the private edit. That's when you find 2 or 3 people at most who love you enough to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We've all got friends who'll pat us on the back, whatever we do, no matter how rubbish it is or good it is. We need them. But actually, sometimes, and certainly with a book, you need to actually ask your friends who will be candid with you, even if it hurts a little bit, and give it to them and say, look, what do you think? And they can be quite brutal, but you need that because then you get the chance to rejig it, recraft it, in certain places.
Yeah.
And then the third stage is the professional edit, which is what your publisher does for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Publish You, my venture, we coach people to write their book in 100 days. We publish their book in 100 days, and we help them launch their book in 100 days. So in a year, you've got your book out there. And we have a team of copy editors, team of proofreaders. So people say, well, I'm not sure if it's quite right. Not. I say, well, leave it to us. We will. You do your best, and then we will polish it.
Yeah. Interesting. And What was the spark behind that kind of type of business, doing publish you and actually helping other people get their books out there? It sounds like your kind of road is kind of interesting. You sound like you didn't have a burning desire to write a book until somebody else said there's a book in you, and then sort of picked up the love for it afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So why coach other people to write books? Well, because I've authored 20 books, people always come to me for help. Oh, Matt, I've got a book idea, or I've started a book and I got stuck, or I'm not sure which of the books to write first, or I've been writing for 7 years and I can't finish the thing. So they come to you for help. And I always want to help people. And a couple of years ago, the number of people coming to me for help was just getting crazy. This was not my job. It was just something I did because I like helping people.
Yeah.
I thought, well, why not make life easier for myself and for them? And why not codify my process? Because I found myself repeating myself to different people. And I thought, I've actually got a really strong methodology and a process. So why not codify it, create a course, and coach people through it in groups? So, and let them pay for the privilege. So that's when it started, just 2 years ago. And now I coach over 100 people a year to write, publish, and launch their books. So it's taken off.
Yeah. So are they fiction, non-fiction, a blend of the two? Do you get?
It's a really eclectic mix. Predominantly we do non-fiction, but we do some fiction. Predominantly books for adults, but occasionally kids' book. Predominantly word-based books, but we do some books with a lot more images. I've written a travel guide to Noto on the island of Sicily in Italy. It's got lots of photos in it, my own photos. So I always joke with people and say I'm a published photographer.
Yeah.
What they don't know is all the photos are taken on my iPhone. It's amazing what photos you can get out of an iPhone. But
yeah.
So we do all sorts of books, but predominantly non-fiction books.
Okay. And I suppose you wouldn't know how much neurodiversity is coming through the door, would you? If because people have probably seen somebody, you've mentioned dyslexic. Do you find you get a lot more dyslexics come through to you at all?
No, not really. Everybody who starts the course or who wants to write a book anytime, anywhere, any place has their own obstacles and barriers to overcome. Just happens that mine was dyslexia, and other people come with other barriers and other obstacles. So, the beginning of the course, I invite people to put their internal barriers on the table. Just say, look, let's be honest with each other. What is the one or two things that could prevent you from writing this book? And they're internal factors. It's not about time to write. It's self-belief, imposter syndrome. People live life with scars, internal scars. And
they do.
I just encourage people to get those out on the table. Because as soon as you've named these things, you've reduced their power.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And then I kind of talk to people about motivation. Why are you writing a book? So I encourage them, turn down the volume on that little critical voice in your head and turn up the volume on your motivation. So actually don't just take something away, put something in its place. So, remove the obstacles and put in your core drive and purpose and motivation for writing the book. So, you replace the negative with the positive.
Okay, yeah. And that's what you find, really. It's not necessarily, when I was thinking about it, and this could be my very practical mind being an engineer and all that. I'm like, what's the mechanics? But actually, it's the internal dialogue is the problem for most people in terms of if they think they've got a story that they need to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a very strong step-by-step methodology. And I always say to my students, if you trust me, trust the process, i.e. do the assignments I set, and trust yourself, you'll finish the 100 days with a manuscript for your book.
Nice.
And 8 out of 10 people finish my course with a manuscript for their book. And I can tell the ones that won't because they don't complete the assignments in the first couple of sessions.
Right.
Well, if you can't spend an hour doing an assignment, when it's a 10-hour assignment, you're not going to stand a chance, are you? So they're very easy to tell. So I can tell it up front who are the people. I know who the people are going to succeed are, because they're the ones who trust me, trust the process, and trust themselves.
Yes, and I know you're not going to tell us the process because obviously that's behind your paywall. But if I was, say, I had said book idea in mind, and I come to you, what is the kind of first few things we do, just to sort of get a flavour of what it's like to be a customer of yours in terms of using Publish You?
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to be a customer. I'm very happy to help you. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I've got an idea or two, I'm not sure, let me give you a little workbook. It's called My Book Idea.
Right.
And you can download it now from my website. If you go to publish.com, so www.publishu.com/free. And it will take you to a web page, and you pop in your name and email, and I will send you a copy of my book idea. And that's where I encourage all the people I try and help to begin, to really try and crystallize that first idea. So before you even start the course, you're working with the key story or the key message you want to communicate.
Yeah. Really, really solid idea by that point, rather than kind of, I guess that thins people out a little bit, doesn't it? So we can crystallize an idea that they're going to go forward. So something's sort of like still a bit vague after using the guide, then maybe haven't quite got it exactly in mind what they want.
Yeah. And the first 2 or 3 sessions of the course, we're refining the idea. There's nothing like talking to a group of peers and an experienced coach like myself about your idea to hone it and improve it. It's just, that's the way it works. So all my coaching is actually in small groups, because the power of writing your book in a peer group is really potent. People often think that writing a book, you need to go off to a log cabin in the mountains 6 months. But actually, I think like most things in life, books are best written in a community where you've got mutual encouragement, support, inspiration, as well as challenge and accountability. So I create a high support and a high challenge environment where we cheer one another on, but we're also very candid in challenging each other.
No, yeah, you can see that. It's the whole peer group thing, isn't it? And yeah, we all have visions, don't we? Remember pictures of Ian Fleming and Goldeneye and all that kind of stuff where he disappears to Jamaica and sits on his own, and it all seems sort of glamorous. But I actually hadn't thought of it like that. Actually, you need the other people around you to kind of not only inspire and motivate, but make you accountable to it, as with quite a lot of things in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned about, obviously, you now feel more comfortable with your dyslexia you've worked through. You've written 20 books. Now, it's kind of interesting. A dyslexic person who loves books, it always boggles my mind, because I should have been reading the same book on my Kindle for about 2 years. As it gets put down, goes flat, gets covered in dust, and I pick it up again. Do you find you now read more books and enjoy the kind of reading process more after doing all of that kind of stuff, and also coming to terms with and be more confident with your internal voice about dyslexia?
Yeah, I do read books, not loads. I have people who read books for me. I do most of my learning in conversation, by osmosis. I like being with people, like going to places, and I learn. I feel I learn by osmosis. Just absorb things, So I tend to read books predominantly for entertainment. I love to take a novel on holiday, a good crime thriller or something.
Good choice.
But when I read books for learning, I tend to skim through them.
Okay.
I grew up in a home where you'd never mark a book and you'd read it from beginning to end. And now I think, no, if a book's valuable, you should scribble all over it. If a book's valuable, you can skim through it and take the nuggets. So I'm very happy to turn the corners on books, highlight things in books. I'm happy to race past pieces that aren't relevant to me to get to the golden nuggets. So I have a different approach to to reading, books that you learn from.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I tend to use most of that sort of non-fiction stuff. I tend to do in audio books, but I do think there's a little bit missing that you can't sit and stop the car in the middle of the motorway and make a note on anything. So turning the corners and all that kind of stuff does make sense to me. So Publish You has been going for a couple of years. What's the sort of biggest success stories do you feel you've had out there? What sort of book do you think has been made you most proud that the person managed to get it out?
I'm proud of every book, and I know that sounds, it's true. Today we published a book for an 85-year-old gentleman whose children and grandchildren said, Dad, Granddad, please will you write down your stories? We don't want them to die with you.
Wow, that's really cool.
So I coached him to write. We have a few people like that. Coached him to write the book, and at the end he said, "Oh, Matt, how should I give it to my family?" I said, "Well, go and find a local printer, run off 50 copies, and give it to them." He said, "Okay." And he came back to me the week later. And he said, "I've spoken to my family, and they said if you will publish it, they think I should get it published with you." So we published it today. So it's out there not just for his family, but for others to enjoy and read. So I'm proud of it. I'm proud of, I coached a business recently in the Channel Islands to write a book on their core intelligence. So they're a leadership consultant. Well, it's called the Leadership Consultancy. And I worked with the team and coached the team to write the book together. That was quite different. And I'm really proud of that. I coached a lady recently who wrote a book called Moments in Mummydom. She's got 9 children.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's written a book about, moments in mummydom, funny stories, profound stories from being a mum. And, and it's not written from I'm the expert. It's kind of written, I get things wrong every day all the time. And these are some of the things,
Yeah.
So, proud of that. So, we publish a new book every week. And I'm always, because I know the moment a book's published, I'm always the first person to go and buy a couple of copies, one to have in Italy and one to have in the UK. And I've got a bookshelf in my holiday home, just got all the books I've coached people to write and publish.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's getting longer and longer and longer.
I was going to say, 100 people a year, you're going to have to get a bigger bookshelf.
Absolutely. I was going to get to I have to put up another shelf.
Yeah. Be creaking away in the way.
Yeah, I'm proud of every book. And I say to authors, you're probably not going to be a bestseller, but I want to help you write the best book you can.
Yeah. I see.
As always, it's bad to compare ourselves with other people.
Yes.
You can always make yourself feel crap by comparing yourself to somebody who's whatever better than you are, apparently. That's not the point. Actually, the only person we should compare ourselves with is who we were yesterday, and are we better today? So the people I work with, for me, I always say to them, I want to coach you to write the best book you possibly can. And for me, that's success.
And I imagine it's poor motivation to write a book if you're just trying to write a bestseller, and I guess the fame and fortune that comes with that.
Yeah. But the reality is less than 1% of authors make a living from writing a book. For most of us, it's an extra holiday. And, depending on how well your book does, it depends whether it's, drive down the road for an overnight or fly off the other side of the world for a month, staying in lovely hotel. So it all depends. What sort of holiday the book's by. So I always say to my authors that, for most people, writing and publishing a book, gives you an extra holiday a year. And depending on how well the book does, depends what sort of holiday you get.
But the local Premier Inn or the Ritz is the difference.
The Ford or the Rolls Royce,
That's it. Okay, now obviously you write for newspapers as well, and I'm curious to know what the difference is between writing for a newspaper versus writing your own books.
Apart from duration, length of article.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, you basically got to really get to the point in an article. And it's got to be very current affairs. Books don't have to be current affairs. They can be, but they don't have to be. But articles, you have to kind of hang it on something. So I wrote an article for the Times newspaper last week because it was Dyslexia Awareness Week.
Yes.
And the headline of the article was Dyslexia is a gift of God and not a learning difficulty or disability. And, so you can imagine what it was like having heard me. But, I'm picking up on something. There's always a hook to write for a newspaper. It's got to be current affairs focused. Whereas a book, it's a bit more evergreen. You want to write a book that's going to stand the test of time and isn't linked to one, historical event. Unless you're writing a history book.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be important then.
Yeah, so I guess writing an article, writing a book is obviously about the length, and articles are much more current affairs focused, certainly for a newspaper. Whereas books are more evergreen.
Yeah, and I guess you've got the newspaper editor and the people from there who want it turned around faster and all that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, they do. Although we turn our books around pretty fast. I mean, you go to a traditional publisher, and it'll be 12 to 18 months before your book is in your hand. 12 to 18 months. 12 months would be remarkable. It's closer to 18 months, whereas we do it in 100 days. So you submit your manuscript, and within 100 days, you'll have a physical copy in your hand.
Yeah, that's rapid. Okay, so let's take a quick detour from books. You have lots and lots of other side projects that are quite numerous. Now, quite a lot of them seem to be giving back as well, a bit along the lines of Publish You. Now, what are the sparks behind jumping out of publishing to do other things? I think I've got a hint from that early on that you start many, many businesses, some fall over and some survive. Do you just love spinning plates and doing different things all the time?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've realised over the years is that I'm an ideator, I'm a creative.
Right.
I have lots of ideas, and the research says that 35% of company founders in the USA are identified as dyslexic, whereas only 15% of the population. So, creative entrepreneurship, people with dyslexia are naturally more creative, great problem solvers. So I've just lent into the fact that I'll probably never have another job in my life because I always get my own jobs.
Yeah,
and I've applied for stuff. I applied to be a member of Parliament, and I was told that I wasn't party political enough. I'm not embarrassed about that actually. I have actually applied for jobs but never got them.
Okay.
So I always say, I'm absolutely unemployable. Because my CV is all over the place. So I always make my own jobs, and I make my own jobs around stuff I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So I run a global foundation called Neighbour, Nayba, as in love your neighbour, but spelled from a language in South America, just because we could and wanted to. And, work in 12 countries on 4 continents, helping churches to love and serve people who are having it tough, who are experiencing vulnerability, isolation, injustice. So maybe helping people who are homeless or in debt or wrestling with their mental health or victims of antisocial behavior, the list goes on. And I love seeing people who are experiencing pain loved and looked after by other people. And that's a foundation that I started. And it's in one sense you look and think, wow, it's big, but in another sense it's small compared to some of the others out there. But again, it's not about comparing yourself to what else is out there. It's just saying, actually, this is unique in this way. So Neighbour is one of my ventures. And there's obviously the property in Sicily, which I use and then I rent when I'm not there. So, it's a little holiday business. I've written a travel guide to the city. Promoted all the best restaurants and the wineries and the beaches along the top 10 beaches along the eastern seaboard where the city is, and a lot of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Sicily and all that. So I love marketing things, and I love marketing my city to the world and saying how amazing it is, because it is.
Yeah. No, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Sort of that's this sort of dyslexic thing sometimes with the entrepreneurship, but also the businesses are different to one another. So I think it's interesting some dyslexics are able to do, which they're actually able to see the kind of how their skills plug into different things. So you end up looking like a bit of the generalist, but actually you're using specialist knowledge just across a wider set of things.
Yeah, you are. So I love starting stuff, but I have a rule that I only start stuff that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
And I only keep running stuff when I'm passionate about it. When I stop being passionate about it, I pass it on in one shape or form.
Okay.
I step away a bit and hand it on to somebody who's excited about it.
Yeah. There's nothing like killing work ethic than the passion disappearing, is there?
No, absolutely. So I would describe myself as a business and social entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I love starting things, and love starting things that contribute something back to the world.
Yeah, very good, and that must make you feel great after doing that as well.
Yeah, and then nice to make a little bit of money along the way, and live your life, keep the roof over your head.
Exactly, got to keep the lights on and enjoy life as well.
It's more expensive to keep the lights on than it's ever been.
Yes, I agree with you on that one.
I mean, what people don't know is we're recording this podcast in the dark to save electricity. No, just joking. The lights are on.
Yeah. We can see each other. It's fine. Okay, so every guest that comes on this podcast gets 3 rapid-fire questions from myself. They don't necessarily need rapid-fire answers from you, but they're just sort of 3 quick things that we tend to round the podcast out with. So let's dive into question number 1. What prejudice have you had about dyslexia that's been proven wrong?
So much. I think my first prejudice was taught me by my teachers that I was stupid. That's before I knew what dyslexia was. But then when I discovered what dyslexia was, then I thought, oh, that's why I'm stupid.
Yes.
So that's my number one prejudice that I've personally had to wrestle with and overcome.
Oh, that's interesting. You discovered your dyslexia and go, that is why I'm stupid, rather than actually that is the reason this happens. Because actually quite a lot of guests will say they discover they have dyslexia and they're like, oh, I'm not stupid, but you didn't
lose that narrative at all. Not where it started, no. It's all, that's why I'm stupid. There is something wrong with me.
Yes. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. And it's smashing them self-limiting beliefs takes a lot of time, doesn't it? Just chip away at them.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 2 in this rapid fire set. If an alien landed and you had to describe dyslexia to them, how would you do it?
Yeah, I'd show them a film and I'd show them a book.
Okay.
And I'd say dyslexics think visually.
Right.
And non-dyslexics think in words.
Yeah.
Yes. If I had to really try and simplify it, I know there's lots of flaws with that metaphor, but if I had to try and really dumb it right down, words are something that people with dyslexia learn over a long time to manage and stuff. But we're great with pictures.
Yes.
Not necessarily drawing them, but seeing life in pictures. And it's why I can stand up and speak for 45 minutes without a single note, because I visualize my talk from beginning to end.
Yeah.
As a storyboard, a pictorial storyboard.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and you're just touching the storyboard points to weaving the narrative together.
Yeah.
Cool. And the final question is rapid fire set. And seeing as this is called the Dyslexia Life Hack Show, what is your favorite dyslexia life hack?
Oh my goodness! I bought a rememberable telephone number.
I remember. Okay. That's a new one.
Yes, it's 111 number, triple another number, and triple another number. It's dead easy to remember. The thing I hate is if you're trying to do one of those kind of you've got to provide some ID, and they say, what are the last 3 digits or 4 digits of your phone number? I just go blank. I don't know. And I have to read the number through in my head from the beginning, and even then I can't, but with my number it's easy. My last 3 digits are 222. 3 digits before that are 111. So it didn't get much easier than that.
That is pretty damn easy. And then now everybody just needs to work out your dialing code. We're there. 07. So it's easy, but my number's publicly out there. If you want to WhatsApp me and you're listening to this, if you're a nuisance, I'll just archive you. But no, seriously, if you want to message me, 07 444 111 222, WhatsApp me if you're interested in anything I've said today. But that would be one of my little personal hacks. The other is I keep notebooks in different places. I love to scribble. And some people keep notebooks and you open them and they're pristine. Mine are not. Mine are an absolute mess. But I've discovered if I scribble, it just helps me process things in my head. So I scribble away. So my notebooks are an absolute mess. They'd never be saved for posterity. but I like notebooks. An actual really nice pencil, thick pencil. Book. For me, I can't beat it. And then another one is team. I rely on a lot on other people. I mean, I run a publishing company. I'm not doing the copy editing and the proofreading. But
I've got people who are really good at that.
Yeah.
So that's probably my biggest hack is I work with other people. I build teams because then you do the bits you do best and let others do the rest.
Yeah. Well, that just leaves me to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to add? And you've already sort of alluded to where people can find you before we sign off.
Yeah, it's been great to be with you. Great to chat. You can find me at publishu.com. That's the best online place, or just find me on social media, Matt Bird Global. On Instagram, Matt Bird Global. On Facebook, Matt Bird Global. On Twitter, Matt Bird Global. Just Matt Bird Global. So send me a message. Yep. I would love to hear from you.
And of course, I'll drop that on the show notes at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk to me on this podcast this evening. It's been really interesting hearing how you approach books and how you approach coaching other people to write their own books.
Thank you. It's been great to be with you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody else for taking the time to listen, and I'll speak to you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.